Tax Act is here anytime you want to easily file your taxes. Tax Act is here for the early birds who like to knock them out as soon as the season opens. And for the procrastinators who like to wait until the very last minute. Tax Act is also here for the middlers who file right in the middle of tax season. No one ever talks about the middlers, but Tax Act sees you, and Tax Act respects you. Tax Act. Let's get them over with.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Now, I'll be honest with you, I have two favorite members of the U.S. House of Representatives. One of them is Anna Paulina Luna of Florida. Ironically, I was initially opposed to her candidacy. I was suspect that she might be a closet supporter of Ron DeSantis over Donald Trump. I wasn't sure that she was a real conservative. Boy, was I wrong. Completely and totally wrong. I've apologized publicly and private for her. She is one of the most courageous, hardest working members of Congress in Washington, and she makes a real difference. But now we're going to talk to my other favorite member of Congress, and that's Tim Burchett, who represents let's see, I want to get this right, the 2nd District of Tennessee. He's a former mayor and state senator. He's a country boy. He's a little different than me, but he is a extraordinarily principled fiscal conservative, strong supporter of the president, a real Barry Goldwater, Ronald Reagan conservative. And he's just not a politician. He's a political leader. But the thing I like about Tim is he tells you like it really is. And there aren't many like that. Tim Burchett, thank you so much for joining us today on the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, Mr. Stone, to have me hold me in the same regards as Luna is a pretty cool thing. So thank you. She's one of my best friends, and her and her husband Andy and their baby Henry are some of my favorites. So thank you, brother.
You're both great patriots, and you're doing amazing work for this country. And I have to chuckle when I follow you on X because you're both informative and entertaining. One of the things that really bothers me is the way members of Congress are able to use insider trader information in order to make millions and millions of dollars on the stock market. Pardon me, when they know, based on their public service, what's going to happen in any particular area of the country or in business and so on. And it just seems to me that this is wrong and it ought to be outlawed. And I know you and Anna Paulina Luna have been very articulate about this, but why can't we get this passed? It is just common sense.
Mainly because a lot of members of Congress, frankly, are dirt bags. They're not there to protect the country or even help our president. They're just there to get wealthy. Not all of them, but some of them. And they come back now and they're saying that Luna and I, of course, what we wanted to do is just say, if you're in Congress, you got to sell all your stocks and put them in a mutual fund. That's what I do with mine. And I cashed out my $11,000 mutual fund to send my daughter to school this past year. But I think I've got about $800 now in a mutual fund. But and I get sick and tired of it, frankly, Mr. Stone, when I hear members of Congress say things like, "Oh, this is costing me so much money, to be in Congress." And I mean, it's almost like the country is lucky to have them. Well, dadgummit, if it's costing you so much dadgum money, go home and make your money. Nobody's making 500-600% return on their investment. These people are crooked as a dog's leg, and it's both parties. And it's just, to me, it's disgusting, really. America's not buying it. And the latest legislation they want to pass is, the president endorsed that. The president said, absolutely, y'all need to get it. This looks bad. Let's get out of this. Well, now they've come back with a bill that says, well, you can keep your stocks, but you can't buy any more. So, I mean, that even, the drive will be on that much more for insider trading, because you got some people have $10, $20 million portfolios, and good and well they're going to be voting to increase the value of those things, or they're going to know which ones to hold and which ones to sell. And it just, to me, and they'll want to make what they got worth more. That's human nature. I just, I just wish we could get past that. And two, it is a complete and total honor to be a member of Congress. More people have played professional baseball than have been members of the United States Congress. If you don't get off the airplane every Monday or Tuesday whenever you get to D.C. and look at that dome off the Capitol and you don't get chills, you ought to get back on the plane and go home, because we don't need you. We need people that want to serve, that want to do what's right for the country and not gripe about it. And we get paid $172,000, something like that. You know, I come from a family of public educators. Most people would love to have that type of income, and that, you know, and you're out there and everybody tells you how great you are and you get your butt kissed coming and going. And, you know, it's just not reality. So it needs to be fixed. Do I think we'll do it? No. I think we'll pass some weak piece of legislation. The Senate will either pass it or they'll pass something different, and then they'll argue about it and nothing will ever happen. And both sides will be up toasting themselves with an expensive glass of wine at Kennebunkport or someplace else, you know, and laughing at the rest of us. So I'm kind of fed up with them on that issue.
Well, I had to chuckle the other day. I tried to call you on the cell phone and you were indisposed. You sent me back a message saying that you were in your office with some Howard Baker Republicans from Tennessee. It reminded me of when I first approached Donald Trump about supporting Ronald Reagan in 1980. And I finally wangled an appointment with him to make my pitch. And he said, well, I wondered when you were going to come here. I said, what do you mean? He said, I've been waiting for you. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, they've all been to see me. I mean, George Bush, John Connolly, Howard Baker. I don't see a winner in the group. I said, let me go through this with you. George Bush, what'd you think of him? He said, man, that guy's got the weakest handshake of anybody I've ever met. I said, I said, John Connolly? He said, Roger, I had to count my fingers after I shook that guy's hand. And I said, Senator Howard Baker, he said, I had no idea he was so short and so fat. So you can see Trump hadn't changed. We used to call them in Virginia, we called them Mountain Valley Republicans. There's a strain of moderate Republicans that run through part of Virginia and into Tennessee, and well, they're not all that conservative like Tim and I, no. But it's a traditional strain of the party. Saw you post this the other day. I found this very offensive. Joy Reid, the African American commentator, if her IQ was 1 point lower, you'd have to water her like a plant. And it is. She says that white people can't invent anything. I agree with your colleague Wesley Hunt. I am so tired of this divisive, race-baiting playbook that these people stick to. It just seems to me race relationships in this country were so much better before Barack Obama came along. 100%,
Mr. Stone. As usual, you call it like you see it, and you're 100% accurate. Look, they don't want the Obamas of the world and the Al Sharptons of the world. They don't want peace. They don't want whites and blacks getting along, and they want it the complete thing dumbed down, because when it gets to pure intellect and putting the best player in, as I like to say, put the best player in, coach, they're out of business. They are completely out of business, and frankly, they should be. If they can't keep their people down and having somebody to blame, for their woes, and not themselves, not the high number of illegitimate children being born, and just the excuses that are being made, they are out of the picture, and their grifting stops at that point. And that's frankly what we really need to see happen. But I don't know that we will anytime soon, because they just keep playing into that thing. You know, the Black Lives Matters movement, for instance, I believe the lady who was in charge of it, I can't remember how many houses she ended up owning. I never saw one kid get sent to school or one single mom taken care of during that. Maybe I missed it, maybe they did, but if they did, they sure didn't tout them very much. And to me, that's a missed opportunity, and frankly, it's dishonest in my opinion.
Well, in all candor, we're the party of civil rights. Abraham Lincoln, it was our leader. Desegregation of the public schools, that was done under Richard M. Nixon. The 1958 civil rights bill would never have passed over the opposition of Lyndon Johnson and the segregationist Democrats without the leadership of Richard Nixon. Affirmative action, which many of my conservative friends don't like, that was a policy not of Lyndon Johnson, not of John F. Kennedy. In fact, people don't know this. Richard Nixon appointed more African Americans to federal office than Lyndon Johnson and JFK combined. The Office of Minority Business Enterprise, started by Richard Nixon. So we are the party of civil rights, and Donald Trump understands that black voters want the same thing as every other voter in America: good schools, good jobs, safe neighborhoods. So the hatred that is so between blacks and whites, this is not coming from us. This is not coming from Trump's gold plan. To empower the African American communities, built on Richard Nixon's dignity, unity, and black capitalism plan. Black voters don't want to be employees; they want to be employers. They want a part of the action. We are the party of civil rights, and we should start talking more about it.
I agree. Memphis, Tennessee. Let's look at that right now. My buddy Brent Collins over here is a state senator. He got Marsha Blackburn, our senator, involved in that. And what happened? The president sent the National Guard in because of all the crime and the violence in Memphis, Tennessee. And who opposed it? Traditionally, the leaders, the Democrat leaders. But who loved it? The moms of the community and the citizens of the community who said enough is enough. They're tired of their kids getting shot. They're tired of the thug gangs taking advantage of their children, killing their kids, and basically raping their community. And who did that? A Republican, Donald J. Trump. And that's exactly what happened. And that's what's happened all across the country. And they can't stand it. Murder rates are down all over. And it's because we've got somebody at the top that's saying enough is enough. And that's finally we've got that. And, this, of course, the race baiting that the left does, the continuous just running down of our country and just denying people basic rights, that's come to an end under Donald Trump. So Memphis. I went to Memphis. I was there several years ago, Mr. Stone, and I always remember I was down on Beale Street. It was a weekend, and this police officer had arresting somebody, and it was a huge crowd, and they had one guy arrested. The other police officer had his gun out, pointing it to the crowd with his back to his fellow officer who was arresting this thug. And they were trying to keep the crowd off of him, so they were rocking the car. And I'd never seen anything like that. I asked somebody, what the heck's going on? I said, it's just another Saturday night. And they were just so used to it. And we shouldn't be used to that. It should not be a mob rule type situation. I went there 2 weeks ago, Mr. Stone, or 3 weeks ago, went by the Peabody, and the famous motel there. Some friends of mine own it, and it was like night and day. I would not have been afraid for my wife and daughter to be broke down in a car down there, or just pull off to the side of the road. It's night and day because Donald J. Trump saw that, and he's put a stop to it.
It's very interesting to me. The Democrats want your colleague Eric Swalwell to drop out of the governor's race. Why are we not tossing him out of the Congress along with Sheila Syphilis McCormick? Why aren't these people being exposed? She stole $5 million of our tax money, mostly to buy jewelry. And Swalwell is now very clearly has sexually assaulted a number of women. Why does the majority, and I think we get the votes for this, why don't we expel these people?
Because we don't have any guts, basically. We like writing tough letters and talking tough. And two, frankly, I think that some people have got something going on in their background they don't want to come out. And that is part of the problem. And I think I think we got a lot of that in D.C. on both sides of the aisle. But I'm with you. These folks need to go. We need to send a clear message. Enough is enough. I don't care whose party they're in. We ought to at least say, get them out. thing about Swalwell, which is interesting, I was looking at some stuff on the numbers. I don't know. I don't think he was at 20%, but he was leading the poll in the Democrat polls. But they've got this jumbled thing where they needed to take him out to so their other people could move up, and they would have a shot at keeping the Democrat, or at least the radical fringe, controlling the governor's mansion in California. So the timing on this to me is suspect. I don't doubt that he's not guilty, but the timing to me just seems very suspect on this timing of Swalwell. So California is a different animal. You've operated out there. I've never even been to California, so I wouldn't even venture a guess at how it is. But I suspect it's not what it seems. That's my theory on that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back with my friend Tim Burchett. Tim, you better give Eric Burleson a call. I didn't mean to hurt his feelings. He's one of my favorites, too. We'll be right back.
Eric's a good man. Yes, sir.
And we're back with Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee's 2nd District. He's a truth teller, and he tells it like it is. I saw these shocking videos you post. Savannah Hernandez is a good friend of mine, a great journalist, and I saw these horrific videos of her being assaulted by Antifa and other radicals. This is really disgusting stuff. I guess let's get to the most important thing, because we only have about 4 minutes. You serve on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. We're all disappointed that the Ayatollahs didn't throw in the towel this weekend, although I didn't think they were going to. Can't blame Donald Trump. He has given peace a chance. I was very happy that he sent Vice President J.D. Vance for those negotiations. I have the highest possible personal regard for Vice President Vance. Where do you think the war goes from here, Tim?
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think that they've, Trump was right when he said, let's not send those arms. We sent some arms through one group, and Trump said, I don't trust them. They'll end up stealing the guns. They're too nice. And sure enough, they did. And all the experts, said that. But some other things people need to pay attention to is not, I was going to say United Nations, but the actual NATO, how they've turned their back on us. Frankly, we saved their ass all over the world, these countries. We put our troops there to keep the bad people away. And what have they done to show their respect to us? They've turned their back on us. And I think it's a good lesson for this country to learn, all these do-gooders that are out there, that we, a lot of times it's going to be just us on our own. And I think this has exposed the oil companies for what they are. They're greedy. We get zero oil from Iran. I realize it's a commodity, but you don't subsidize commodities. The federal government does billions of dollars. I think it just shows their loyalty as well is not with this country, but to the almighty dollar and greed. So I think Trump gets it. He's in it for the long haul. I'm afraid he'll lose Congress, though, if we put boots on the ground. I think we continue on with what we're doing. We offer them negotiations, but I'm with you. I never thought they'd deal with us in good faith. I don't believe it. And until their people can overthrow them and we can get arms to them to get them to be able to do that, I see it just dragging out.
I'm afraid I agree with you. I'm opposed to boots on the ground. I'm opposed to tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of American casualties. I'm particularly opposed to giant new contracts for Halliburton and General Dynamics and all these other defense contracts. See, the problem with war is it's extremely profitable for some people. And Trump ran as an anti-interventionist. He doesn't love war, but he also doesn't love countries that kill Americans and their own people. Iran has a long history of murdering Americans. And I was very not skeptical, but I was concerned in the beginning. But now I'm with the President of the United States. Once he makes a decision then that's it for me. And this is a war we cannot afford to lose. Great piece yesterday, late last night, by General Michael Flynn on X. I strongly urge you to take a look at it. Really well put. All right, I'm going to see you in Washington, D.C. next week. I'm looking forward to that. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that. I'm already thinking about which suit I'm going to wear. So I will see you in Washington. And many thanks to to my guest, Congressman Tim Burchett, a true American patriot.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?